Hey everybody, welcome back to Magic Mind. You are here, my friends, because you know that magic is an art form with the ability to move and entertain people like no other, but you know that developing this skill requires diligent practice and a detailed understanding of the craft. So my goal with this show and company is to provide you with the community to introduce you to the people and ideas that will help you develop your magic. Our guest with us today, Jaime De Grant. As a modern-day entrepreneur, Jaime wears many hats in his day-to-day life. He is a paramedic, writer, artist, and magician who chooses to focus on committing specific acts of kindness. In fact, back in 2013, Jaime gave a TEDx talk on the idea of committing specific acts of kindness instead of random acts of kindness. The premise was that we should be seeking out ways to help others instead of letting the occasions occur by happenstance. And I recommend that everyone watching right now go to the TEDx talk. I'll include links near this video. In that talk...
That's a great intro.
Yeah, there's more. There's more. In that talk, he also goes through his creation of the Anything is Possible bottle, an unaltered glass bottle with a newly wrapped deck of cards inside. The project eventually became a campaign to, quote, send wonder. As a specific act of kindness, for 100 days, he would leave an Anything is Possible bottle somewhere random for a stranger to find. The project continued beyond those 100 days, has gained contributors, and is still going to this day. As a magician, he's performed for celebrities, charities, and companies such as Disney, Cirque du Soleil, and the University of British Columbia, where he taught Magic 101, which is insane. As a college student, I wish I could be taking that class. He's written a book called The Approach, which is a complete guide on becoming a professional magician. The book has received critical acclaim from magicians and authors such as Ken Weber, the author of Maximum Entertainment, which, side note, is a fantastic read. I actually have it on audiobook from Vanishing Ink, and I'm about 6 hours into it. He is the host of Magic Friday, a review show where he would learn a trick, go perform it as many times as possible during the day, and then give an honest review of his experience for the trick. He was featured on the front cover of Genie magazine and Ripley's Believe It or Not twice. Once for his that's right, a big two. Once for his Anything is Possible bottle, and again for doing something that many magicians pretend to be able to do, which is memorizing a shuffled deck of cards in under a minute. I'm honored to have on the man who 1 year ago personally sent me a free sample of his book, Jaime De Grant.
Hey, thanks for having me, Chris.
No worries. Thank you for coming on. So
Yeah.
Beginnings are always awkward, so I don't want to waste too much time in this awkward zone, and I want to give you straight away a place to go to.
Yeah, let's hear it.
Magic 101.
Magic 101 was a course at UBC, so University of British Columbia. They have it was through the Alma Mater Society. And what it was like courses that students could go to that weren't part of the normal curriculum. I think it was for like make friends. I mean, to put it in comparison, they also had like pole dancing 101. All right, so this wasn't like this wasn't
Okay.
going to accreditation of getting a master's degree, but it was awesome just to be able to teach at the university. And of course, for the rest of my life, I'll spin it that I was a professor of magic.
Right, of course, sure.
But it was just a random email just out of nowhere saying, can you come teach this course at the university? And I was like, absolutely. Yeah,
That
funny.
is so sweet. This is really off topic, but as you were talking, I could see myself just in a tiny picture, and I noticed that my head was out of the frame. Was I in frame when I was giving that introduction?
You were totally in frame.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. So, when you were coming up with the syllabus for Magic 101, did you... Because I know a lot of courses, traditional courses, they have set syllabi that they give the teachers, but I assume you must have had some control over that, right?
Totally. So I had to just design the course myself. So it was 4 weeks, so 4 2-hour sessions. And it's interesting because you don't want to give like secrets away
Yeah.
to people that might not actually be magicians, right? So I split it into 4 different themes. So one was like bar tricks, one was like, magic for the family, one was cons, and what was the 4th one? Everyday objects, I think. So there was stuff like, where you take a dollar bill and you put 2 paper clips on it and you pull it and the paper clips link in the air.
Okay.
Do you know that?
I don't.
If you take a dollar bill, I don't have a dollar bill. If you take a dollar bill, fold it into an S, and then put a paper clip on one side of the S and the other one on the other side, you pull it, they'll link in the air. Well, they'll link on the bill and then they'll fly up.
Okay.
So just stuff like that. Yeah, we didn't go into too much depth. I wasn't teaching ambitious card, but it was great. It's all stuff for the resume, and they had a great time. It was awesome.
Yeah, I'd imagine that's like the one class that everyone always made. It's not really a class you'd want to skip.
Well, it's funny because there was like I remember because I did it for I think 2 years. I remember one course, like one group, there was like three guys, and they were like tell us how to hypnotize people because we need girlfriends. I remember that was they were there. They were there specifically. We need to learn how to. I'm like, that's not exactly how it works.
Oh man, they must have been heartbroken.
Yeah. Well, sometimes you just gotta pull back the curtain, eh?
Yeah. Speaking of college, prior to this, the cameras going live, we kind of set up a debate. I told Jamie that I have a lot of problems with college, and right now I'm a college student, for those of you who watch the show, and I'm a business student, and I'm going along, but I'm really only doing it for my parents. I want to be a magician. And Jamie said, well, I hate to break it to you, but your parents are right. So I'd love to go a little bit into that, because that sounds interesting to me.
Totally. People are always about, follow your dreams, you don't need school, do what you want kind of idea. And a lot of, even if you listen to a lot of current hot topic self-motivational guys like, Gary Vee or
Sure.
Tai Lopez or any of those guys, they're all about the hustle and the grinds. And I think a lot of maybe young magicians listen to that advice and they're like, that's exactly what I want to do. But magic, specifically magic, or if we could even just say performance art, is a lot different than developing a company that's going to, sell sneakers to 100 million people, right? Magic is a very finite level of commitment, meaning that you can only pull so much money out of it. Mm-hmm. So the comparison I tell people is, and this is to preface, this is why I believe in the day job, and that's why I'm still a paramedic to this day, is that what's your favorite TV show?
Rick and Morty.
Rick and Morty. So how many seasons has it been on?
3.
3, exactly. And this is probably a hit show. It's a show that you love. They're killing it, right?
Yeah.
And you're 19?
I am.
So let's say you retire successfully, let's say 55. So you need 36 years. So can Rick and Morty do 33 more seasons?
No.
30. Could you imagine 30? And someone right now is typing The Simpsons, right?
I was thinking
excluding the outliers.
Sure, fair enough.
Could you have a hit show 1 year? Yeah, maybe. Could you have a hit show 3 years in a row if you're lucky? Now, could you have a hit show for 33 years? And in magic, if you're looking at magic as a business, you're saying to yourself, I want to do magic full-time forever. You're telling me that you're going to create a hit show for 33 years in a row. And I'm going to look at you and I'm going to say that's probably not realistic. Now, do we have David Copperfield? Do we have Chris Angel? Do we have David Blaine? Absolutely, there's outliers, and everyone wants to be that person. But I would suggest why? Why not just do 2 things? Why not do 3 things? Why not have a quadruple life where you can do... I mean, the internet has created such an opportunity to do so many things simultaneously. I tell people, do it all. You don't have to pick one anymore. It's not like my parents, when they grew up, they picked one job, you worked it for 40 years, you retired, and that was it. Mm-hmm. The youth of today have the ability to multitask like no other generation since the beginning of the earth. So if you love magic and you also are an actor and you're also taking business in school, you can do all of those things. And my advice to anyone is the more stuff that you can do, not necessarily for free, but the more the more opportunities that are given to you, you need to take them all. So if someone says, "Hey, we'll pay for your university," or you can live at home while you go to university, or we'll offer to help your university, I take it. If someone says, "Hey, we're going to fly you to Italy and you can perform in a magic camp for 2 months," I take it. My advice to everyone is you don't have to strictly pick one thing, and I know that's opposite to a lot of what we see on social media, but you can do it all. And I definitely advise everyone to pick more than one income stream.
So interesting.
That was a long answer. That was a long answer.
No, but you clearly had it's well thought out in your mind, and it makes sense. I mean, if I go back to the beginning of your introduction, as a modern day entrepreneur, Jamie wears many hats in his day to day life.
Mm-hmm.
But surely you have to focus on one, no?
So people will say to me, how do you do all these things? How do you write a book? How do you work 12-hour shifts? How do you do gigs? Blah 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 blah. You must have more time. And my reply is time does not exist. There's no such thing as time, in the sense of I was not given more time when I was born than you versus someone else. The only thing that exists is priorities. That's it. And I am just masterful at prioritizing. So when it comes to someone that's like, well, I need to devote all my time to, say you want to devote all your time to magic. So you need to make a website, you need to generate leads, you need to do podcasts and all that stuff. That can absolutely be your number one priority. But I try to run like 12 things consecutively all the time. So you should be able to have like 11 things running in the background, and maybe school is like number 2 or number 3. It doesn't mean that you only can do magic, and that to the neglect of all the rest. I would suggest that if you're doing one thing and one thing only, that perhaps you're not maximizing your time. And that's someone like, do you know who Gary Vee is?
Of course.
Yeah. So, and he's a master of that as well, right? Where he uses every second of his day, right?
Yes.
He uses every minute like to the fullest.
Yeah.
And he's not, when you look at him, when you think, what is his business, right? What exactly is his business? You would think, well, it's probably his wine business. But is it? It's probably his wine business, his motivational speaking, his Instagram, his podcasts. He's probably got like 100 startups on the go. Like despite what he preaches, and I don't know Gary Vee, so if Gary Vee's watching, correct me if I'm wrong. But despite
Gary Vee is not watching. I can assure you.
That I can promise you would never know what people click on. Is that we just hear the hustle, the hustle, the hustle. And I think a lot of people misinterpret the hustle for meaning I must hustle at only this one thing. And I think you can hustle a bunch of things.
That's interesting. And I think you're right in terms of the Gary Vee, because he does say something very similar to this. It's triple down on your strengths. And in my mind, I did think of that as triple down on one thing, but strength is different than one thing. Triple down on your strength can mean be the guy who hires people. I don't know, but whatever. If Gary Vee has 100 companies and he's tripling down on his strength of hiring people, in all those companies, he can be the guy who's hiring people. If that makes sense. He's tripling down on his strength, not necessarily the fact that he's doing one thing at VaynerMedia or whatever.
Totally. And for someone like yourself, we use you as a perfect example, right? So you want to create this hit show, right? How do you pronounce your last name?
Jelinski.
So you're telling me you want to create the Chris Jelinski show, and you want to have a 35-year run. But I would say that I don't think that's going to take you 18 hours of the day to do. I think you've got a lot already done. You've already got the podcast. You've already got the website. I see on your site that you're an actor. So you've already got these things on the go. So how much time is school taking per day?
Okay, this is a lot of people going to college right now are going to hate me because I have the best schedule. So I would say, on average, 2 hours a day, and that's counting the time that I'm at school. Wait, actually, I used to have school on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. On Wednesday, I had one class and it's already over. So now I go to school Tuesday and Thursday, and it's no more than like 5 hours each day.
Right. So that's perfect. Let's even double it, right? So say it was like 10. What is that taking away from the Chris Julinski show? Those 10 hours. I would say nothing. And if anything, I would say school specifically is a benefit to the Chris Julinski show because that is a place where you can meet hundreds, if not thousands, of people that can tune in, right? School, just like a job, is a place where you can make contacts for people who will then watch your show, i.e., book you on gigs later in life. When I was a bike messenger, do you know what bike messengers are? Like
I do.
bike couriers?
Well, hang
I
on.
was
Some people may not, so why don't we explain it anyway?
So if you live in a big city like New York or I was in Vancouver, companies need to deliver envelopes or packages to each other. Envelopes, empty envelopes. And the fastest way to do it is by bicycle because the traffic is so bad.
Right.
So I was a courier for 12 years, and I would say like 99.9% of all my gigs came from those clients, right? So you look at it and you kind of go, oh, am I a bike courier or am I a magician? Which one am I? And I think those days are completely gone because there was a moment where I realized, well, I'm neither. I'm Jaime De Grant, right? And that's when things really took off. That I could book gigs from the Courier.
Yeah.
I could still work 9 hours a day, or if you were going to school, go school 9 hours a day. Do the gigs at night. Work on the websites at night on weekends. Like there was more than enough time to do it all. So school should be the same.
Yeah, and you're bringing up an interesting point, which is the networking aspect of you being a bike courier.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
And how finding a place to network could be a good thing. And this is something that I've actually recently started doing. There's a thing called BNI here in the States, and I don't even know if it's all over. But at least in my area, BNI, it's Business Networking International. And
Right.
they're little networking groups, and they have one real estate agent, one lender, one CPA, and we all try and refer each other business. And I just started, just like last week, going to these, and the very first one I went to booked me a gig. The very first one I went to.
There you go.
So it's about that
Yeah.
networking, and being a bike courier gives you that same access.
Right. And when we talk networking, it's something I talk about in the book, is that the biggest problem magicians have, right? Listen, if you're at home, listen to me. The biggest challenge you're going to find becoming a professional magician is who do you show your tricks to? Like when you're practicing, when you're starting out, who physically is going to see your ambitious card? Most people have three, right? They've got their parents, their best friend, and a significant other. And then that's it. They've tapped out their audience. And when you actually are brutally honest with yourself, like how many people have seen you do this particular effect? So the goal to get good is there's only one goal: meet people. That's it. You need as large an audience to show people magic to as humanly possible. And that was what started up Magic Friday for me. Was when I was a courier. A lot of the clients were like, "Hey, Jamie, show us a trick," and I was busy, and I'm like, "It's stressing me out. I'm too busy. Let's make Friday Magic Friday. I will do magic only on Friday. I'll do the same trick all day," and then I ended up writing a review about it. But if you're at work right now, or you're at school, or I don't know where you are, wherever you are, create a Magic Friday where you tell your coworkers, "Hey, every week I'm going to show you this thing." If you've got classmates, it's going to be, "Hey, this is going to be really weird, but I'm becoming a professional magician and I need someone to show my magic to. Do you mind if I come approach you every Tuesday for Magic Tuesday?" No one says no, by the way.
Yeah.
No, I have never had anyone said no. No free magic for me.
I'm
No.
good, thanks.
I'm good. No, everyone. And if you did get that, that would be indicative of working on your approach anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So for school, I think university is a gift. I think a day job where you see different people daily is a gift. I think any chance that you have to show your magic live take it. And if you get paid for it as well, like a job, then you're golden.
So, how did you go from courier to paramedic? Those two things seem fairly different.
Yeah, kind of different. I was how did this work? I worked at the airport. This is so good. I'll make this very short. I worked at the airport, quit the airport. This is in my early 20s. Had no marketable skills. Thought I should try and become like a firefighter or paramedic or something. Took a first aid course. Was starving to death, so I got a job as a bike courier. My first week as a courier, a guy had a heart attack in the street, and because I just done a CPR course, I gave him CPR and he lived. I told the story to one of my courier clients whose brother was a paramedic. I went for a ride along in the ambulance, loved it. Again, did more things at once while I was couriering, worked on my paramedic license while working on my magic business. They all kind of came together, and I became a paramedic in 2002, 2003. That's it.
Okay, so it's been a while. It's been what, 15 years that you've been a paramedic?
15 years, greatest job in the world.
Okay,
Yeah, if anyone else there is looking for a day job, it's the greatest job in the world.
so since you have all these things going on, I know you as a magician. On the internet, I know you as a magician. But
Yep.
what percentage, if you had to allocate it that way, what percentage of your time would you say goes to magic? And has it fluctuated dramatically over your, I don't know, 10
Absolutely.
years?
It totally changes from year to year. And this is kind of like, if we use the analogy of creating like the hit show, right?
Right?
I had the Jaime De Grant show. For me, it was probably like a hit show, meaning I was doing the most gigs when I was in Vancouver. I moved, so we'll get to that in a second. About, I would say, I guess maybe even as much as close as like 2 years ago. So when you become a professional magician, everyone watching, because I know you'll want to make money at it, and you can make a ton of money. Make no mistake. A lot of your gigs will come at Christmas, corporate Christmas parties. When you start off, now I do a lot of motivational speaking, which is at companies' annual get together. But in the beginning, you'll do a lot of corporate Christmas parties. So there was a time, like even maybe as little as 2 years ago, where I'd be try to do like 50 gigs at Christmas, which is like a
Whoa.
schlock. Like that's a ton. But you got to think when you get into major cities, Christmas parties, it's really bizarre. They can start as early as November. So
Okay.
literally from November till like New Year's Day would be like gigs. I would do like 2 gigs a night. There was like a time I was at like the Wall Center, this fancy hotel in Vancouver. I did walk arounds from like 7 to 8. Literally, you're thinking of the Three of Hearts. Excuse me. I walked across the hall and walked on stage as they're saying, "Ladies and gentlemen, Jaime De Grant." I'm like, "Hello, everyone."
Oh, man.
Do a separate gig. So, but now I've moved because I got a promotion at my paramedic job. So now I live in the middle of nowhere. I'm taking like a gig, maybe not showbiz break, but a gig break, because now I can fly and do a motivational speaking gig, which would be the equivalent of 10 walk around gigs anyway. So it definitely fluctuates. This will all come back to this 35 years in a row. Like it's impossible, in my opinion, it's impossible to sustain that length. And there are guys that do it, right? We call them workers, where they work the gigs every year from 20 years old till 65.
Yeah.
But so, okay, I know we're talking a lot about business here, but unless you're a master, and I'm talking a financial ninja, most people get into a world of hurt when they get to 55, 65. And it's hard for you and your audience probably to appreciate because you're 19, but the ability to save. So let's call $100,000 a year a good job. I think that's fair to say, right?
Yeah.
So we make $100K a year. If you banked $1 million, right? So you've banked $1 million. You've worked magic you started tomorrow, you go till 55, you've got $1 million in the bank. You're like, I am golden. That is only going to last you 10 years. So now you're 65. Well, I'm personally going to live to be about 110. So tell me, where is the money coming from for the next 50 years? How on earth are you going to bank 50 years of cash? And no one does. So that's why I personally believe in the pension, meaning get a day job.
Yeah.
And the key is get a day job that you love, right? Don't do one that you hate. Get a day job and then, yeah, rock the pension. When I turn 55, I'm never going to work again. I'm going to have an extra life. I'm going to have a free life when I turn 55.
So what are you going to do when you turn 55?
Oh my God, I'm going to buy a field and 1,000 puppies, and I'm just going to have dogs everywhere. That's probably.
That feels like a
I'm
very
a
real
huge,
answer.
I'm a huge dog fan. Bella's downstairs, but yeah. So there's a couple things to think about there, and I know when you're young, and I started doing magic gigs when I was in my like mid 20s, so not far off from yourself. You're right. Like you do need to focus. Like you need to create this business, just like I started, paramedicine, right? You have to have these
Yeah.
pathways. But I firmly believe that one of your paths should involve a pension or someone that's going to pay you for years when you stop, whether that's amazing investments, savings, RSPs, whatever that plan is. One of those branches of your financial tree has to be a lifetime of payments, because if you're going to do gigs forever, then you're telling me that you're going to do gigs until you actually drop dead, and you're not going to want to do that in 30 years, I guarantee you.
There's something interesting that you're touching on, which is so I do want to get an answer out of you though. When you're 55,
Yeah.
what are you going to do? Because there's a book called The 4 Hour Work Week. Tim Ferriss.
Tim Ferriss, love that guy.
I know you practically his brother, and and he talks about how there's some problems with retirement, which is it kind of implies that you don't like what you're doing, and that you will have enough money to live out the rest of your life without doing anything, which, as you're saying, isn't realistic. So I want to hear
Right.
about what you plan on doing once you hit that point.
I'm actually not kidding. I'm going to buy a field with puppies in it and just have dogs all
Fair
day.
enough.
I mean, when I'm 55, I can do whatever. So like currently next year, I'm planning on running a marathon, getting my pilot's license,
Oh, no
and
way.
writing another book. So like whenever anyone tells me, I'm bored, I look at them like I can't even wrap my head around it. It's
Yeah.
absolute madness. When I'm 55, it's probably going to be, well, I want to go take a trip to Mars. I want to do, there's going to be 1,000 things to do. And like I said, it's an extra life that I'm going to have. Will magic be a part of that? I'm sure. Absolutely. But I'm not going to have to do these things. I'm not going to have to go do a gig so that my family can actually eat. And now we're getting deep in the game. Is everyone, I hope you're watching at home, we're getting deep in the game.
I'm buckled up. I'm ready.
Okay, here we go. And this is just my opinion. Other people have the complete opposite, but I can tell you this has worked really well for me. Having a day job, having a regular job allows me to crank the prices of my gigs, right? If you have to pay rent, and say your rent is $1,000, just as
Mhm.
an example, and you're only doing gigs and you don't have a gig, and someone's like, how much do you charge for walk around magic? And you're like, $1,000 an hour. And you're like, oh, thank God I'm going to pay rent. And they're like, well, we only have 200. And you're like, well, I'll do it for 5. Right. And they'll go, okay. So you're like, okay, I'm halfway to making my rent this month. But if you have a day job and your rent's already covered and your food's already covered, and someone says, how much do you charge for walk around? I'm like, $1,000 an hour. And they're like, well, we've got 200. I'll say, I'm sure you'll find someone awesome. Like, I will not take that gig. And what that does is I never lower my prices. And the opposite, I crank my prices. I have the luxury of being able to just experiment. And
Mhm.
that's how I went from I think, well, when I started, it was probably $100 an hour to 1,000 to 1,500, because I can just be like, yeah, 1,500, and just see who says yes. And once you enter that A game, there's that kind of different levels. Once you
Yeah.
enter that A stratosphere of entertainer, there's more than enough going around. I remember I did a gig once, and it was for a pharmaceutical company conference. And these guys, like, they're the richest people in the world, and they're all sitting around. I was at the one table, the head table, because they invite you to have dinner with them after.
Mhm.
And I'm having dinner, and I'm like, okay, guys, I just got to ask, because this is the craziest thing ever. Like, aren't you all competitors? And they all start laughing. And I'm like, what's so funny? And they're like, Jamie, there's enough money for all of us.
Ah,
And it was something that I learned. But when you get into like the big money gigs, and my big money gigs are nothing compared to, what David Blaine charges, I'm sure, for walk around. He's probably in the hundreds of thousands. Like, those people exist. Now, granted, you have to be in their area, but you would never be able to get there if you're constantly having to negotiate price because you need to pay bills.
so you're talking about a place that we all aspire to be in. So you're talking about
Right.
breaking out of the stratosphere.
Yeah.
I'm worried about getting through the cellophane that's wrapped around me. How do I
So
break, like, into that first level where I'm like not? Where are the gigs?
totally. So, and that's one of the first questions everyone asks, right? How do I
Yup.
get gigs? So, every single person you meet from this day forward has to know that you do magic for money. That is the only way you're ever going to get gigs. In marketing, they call it impressions. I did a
Yeah.
gig for Disney where, did you ever see that movie, The Sorcerer's Apprentice?
Oh, yeah, I must have. It
It
sounds
was
so
like with
familiar.
Nicholas Cage. So came out years ago.
Oh, maybe not.
They paid me $1,000 a day to be on the street, downtown Vancouver, Robson and Howe, to do magic on the street. And there was a guy, literally a guy, sitting in a beach chair behind me who worked for the company with a checklist. And all he would do is anytime I said Sorcerer's Apprentice, July 26th, he put a little check mark, right? So I was supposed to do magic, gain a huge crowd, and then be like, hey, the Sorcerer's Apprentice coming out July 26th. And he'd count the people in the crowd, check, 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 check. And each check was what was called an impression. And
Mm-hmm.
marketing stated that all people needed to hear was the title of the movie and the date. That's all they wanted. So creating a business is no different. If you're a plumber, if you're a, I don't know, tow truck driver, people have to know you do this thing for money. If they don't know that you do this for money, they're not going to be able to hire you. You're not going to hire a plumber if you don't know he knows how to fix the pipes.
Yeah.
So the way to do that is impressions. And this is why school and work is so important, because you're given a schwack of potential clients that you can then tell. So even when I'm ordering coffee, when I was really working gigs, I'll take whatever, mocha, fancy coffee.
Uh huh.
And as I'm putting cream in it or whatever sugar, I'm like, oh man, I need the energy for a gig tonight. And people, oh, what gig? Oh, I'm a professional magician, right? If I'm out photocopying something at the Kinko's, oh man, I need 20 copies. I got to send these out to clients. Oh, what clients do? Oh, I do magic for money, right? Every single person. If I went to buy new shoes, I hope these are going to be good for the gig tonight. Like, every single person I met knows that I do magic for money, and then I gave them a business card. Nowadays, you could probably like add me on Facebook or zap my phone, hold my phone to your face, whatever it is now. But they just have to. Every single person knows, hey, that guy, I can hire that guy to do a wedding, Christmas party, company party, barbecue, birthday,
Okay.
and that's how you do it.
So a big part of that equation was having a place to network, and you talked about the shoe store, the coffee shop. But correct me if I'm wrong. For you, a big majority was the messaging, the courier thing, right?
Totally.
Okay.
That was another huge, absolutely. Basically anyone. But it was also like, I've done gigs for fellow couriers, right? Like coworkers. I've done gigs for like the barista who got married. A lot of them were at the companies, and people are like, well, how do you get to that company section?
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of it is just, you have to work with what you've got, right? If you live in, I don't know what a small town in the United States is. Wichita? Is Wichita small?
I have no
I don't know.
idea.
I don't know. Pick a small town in the States.
Sure.
There's only a finite number of people there to book gigs, right?
Mm-hmm.
So get them all. Get them all. Like, every single person you meet, I guarantee you they're having a birthday this year.
Yeah.
Everyone does.
Yeah.
And I'd always try and go for like the milestones, like 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45. And then just letting them know that I'm the guy. I'm the guy that's going to make your party amazing.
Okay. So two things there. What is the cheapest you've ever charged for a gig? I mean, and I'm assuming it's not like
Yeah,
oh, it's my cousin and he was broke or whatever. But like, like for
right.
a professional event, what is the cheapest you've ever charged? And then I will let you know what my second one is as soon as I remember it.
Sure. So what I always want to okay, are we ready to go? I feel like we're going deep in the we're
Okay,
going
I'm
okay.
more strapped in.
Okay, get strapped in.
All right.
In gambling, in gambling there's a line saying never leave any money on the table, right?
Mm-hmm.
So even though I'm in the position because of a day job to increase my prices, and I also probably don't need money at this point really too much. But if you're starting out and you're doing a gig and it's a young man and woman and they're getting married and they have $50 for their wedding, like they're poor. It's the like small town, they've got nothing.
Yeah.
Does it benefit you to say I've charged 200 and not get the gig? Because you just left, in the gambling terms, you just left $50 on the table, right?
Right.
Because you're not going to get that gig and that money's going to sit there unused. So the gambling world states you take the gig for $50. You take all the money they've got. That's your goal, to take all the money they've got.
However.
However, at the same time, you don't want to be known as doing, as the cheap magician.
Yeah.
So if you're doing, what I call cheap gigs, I always try to negotiate a trade of some sort. So if the guy is a logger, I'll be like, sure, I'll do it for $50, but I also need, 19 cords of firewood. Or if she's an artist, and it's funny because you'd be amazed at the number of people that are artists.
Yeah.
You can then manipulate the gig to say, I'll do it for $50, but I need one of your paintings. And when people later say, how much did they pay you? You can say, oh, they paid me $1,000. Her paintings are amazing. I would have paid that easily for it. So personally, I would do, my very first gig was actually for what you would think was for free, but I exchanged it for art. It was for a photographer. She was having a show and she wanted a magician. And I traded the gig for 2, 3 photos from her work.
Mm-hmm.
So did I get any money to pay the rent? Not in the beginning, but it helped me. From that gig, I booked 3 more, 4 more, blah, blah, blah. And it goes from there. So in my book, I talk about how to charge, what to charge. And I think I've got it online. You can find it probably online in just like an essay. And I book prices based on the average rent in your city.
Yes, I remember reading this. I've read your blog
Yeah.
all the way through. I have the first 12 chapters, and I promise I will buy the book as soon as I
Oh,
can.
it's no problem. Yeah.
But I remember you talking about the barter system in your book, and it was such a brilliant idea. It's not something that anyone would really think of, but it makes perfect sense. It's a way of getting your values worth without, and get the gig.
You have to, yeah, you don't want to leave any money on the table. If they've only got $50, that's it. Like you're not going to get money from a stone. But you also have to paint this picture of yourself as the hit show. So you've got to get something else in kind. And that might even be, if you're in a small town and not many people around, it might be even like a quote, right? I can do it for 50, but I'm going to need like a quote that I'm going to use on my website. And, normally I pay people $500 to use their quote, but I'll do it in exchange for the gig, right? So there's definitely ways to build value. And don't forget, when you're trying to start, when you're starting out, your goal is to build the brand, right? And brand value is completely different than monetary value. If you're like, well, I want to buy a lime green Lambo, then that's a different technique than I want to book gigs for 30 years. Because the only way to do that is to hit the trenches and get a ton of gigs under your belt in the beginning so you can get testimonials, word of mouth, photos from the gigs, which is key. Like there's a whole schwack of value that you need to do to create an excellent brand in the beginning. Photos from gigs is another way as well of like, sure, you've only got $200, I'll take it, but I'll also need photos then to make up for the other 19,000 that I would normally charge.
Yeah,
I need 3 photos from your thing, right? Like you need to make them feel special as well, right? Especially when it comes to weddings. You don't want to make anyone feel bad. So.
Right. So there's something there, and I remember what the part two was, and this is something that Ken Weber talks about in his book. The average person has only seen maybe, I think he said, point 0.5 mentalists and maybe one magician in their life. So
Totally.
how do you tell people that you do magic, but also how do you kind of implant the thought that a magician is good for birthdays for this reason, blah, 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 when you're making all those impressions? How do you make sure people know what a magician is good for?
Great question. So, okay, we're all strapped in. Okay, here
Yes.
we go. Here we
I'm like
here, here
three
we,
layers of seatbelts in.
here we go. This is going to be hard for people. You have to be the guy or girl. You have to be. I'll tell you a story. So, my wife Melissa, she loves this show called Supernatural. Have you ever seen it?
I don't think so.
It's a hit TV show, and a friend of ours was going to be. He was an actor on the show. So it was Melissa's birthday, and I asked the guy, I'm like, normally I would never ask, but this is her favorite show. Could we come on set? And he's like, oh, I'll find out. And they're like, oh, no problem. And when we were on set, where, you're sitting, with the headphones on, and you're just watching the screen for hours. Mm-hmm. And then one of the stars walked in the room. It was time for his shot, his scene. And when he walked in the room, it was like the room actually lit up. Like he actually was like, well, a star. That was actually what it was like.
Wow,
and it was
okay.
one of the, you look at me and you're like, wow, that's amazing. And like, he's like, hey, everybody. Like he just had that, just that presence.
Sure.
So you need to have that presence at all times. That is what you need to be. When you walk into the coffee shop, when you buy your new pair of shoes, like people need to look at you and go, wow, this person is different. This I want to be around that person. And there's a multitude of ways to do that. You can be really good looking, so lose weight, good jawline, genetics. That's one way, right? The other way is, the way I do it is I compliment people back to the specific act of kindness. I'm a master at complimenting people. Just, you'll meet a buddy and, they do what I call digs, right? They'll be like, hey, your nice haircut, and, making fun of you.
Yeah.
Whereas I'm the guy that will go, hey, that's a sweet haircut. Where'd you get that? And it takes people aback because they're like, is he being serious? And once they know that I'm serious, they're like, oh, I got it at, John the Barber. And you're like, well, where? Tell me where. Where is John the Barber? Because that is the greatest haircut I've ever seen in my entire life. Right? And my ability to do that is what makes it different, right? Like people are like, I don't know why, but I feel different when I'm around this person. And then, hey, I do magic for money. When's your birthday?
Yeah.
They're like, next week, hire me. I will make it the greatest party you have ever had in your entire life. Of all the birthdays you've ever had, I will be the most amazing. I guarantee. Put my phone to your face and take my number. like you've just got to be that guy. And it's hard. And that's the hardest thing, because people think that it's going to be the magic that's going to do it. This is time for some heartbreak, folks. Here comes the heartbreak.
I'm already ready for this one.
The magic doesn't matter.
Yeah.
I mean, it matters. It matters. You can't be a terrible magician. It matters, but they're not paying you for the magic. They're paying you for the guy or girl to be there. That's what they're paying for. They're paying there to have all their guests have an amazing time. And, you think, well, they're going to have an amazing time because I'm going to blow their mind when the, ace of spades comes out of their, back. But that's not what the amazing time is. The amazing time is they want to be around you. They feel better when they're around you. There's something about you that is a star. And that's what you need to aspire to be.
Okay, so if that's the case, why do magic at all?
It's a great question. So you got great questions. We're going deep in the game.
Deep as possible.
So magic, Okay, here we go, everyone. Everyone, go to the washroom for a second. Come back here in a second. Just wrap your head around this.
Get a towel to get all the sweat off.
Magic.
You'll be good.
Get a towel. You get a towel. Yeah. Magic. Let me just hold on. I gotta just let me just send this thing before we get into it.
Sure.
Just gonna ask someone to turn off the fan downstairs.
No worries. And in the meantime, I'll practice my compliments. Jamie, where on earth did you get that hat? I've seen hats similar to that, but I don't think I've ever seen one that comes close. Like, this is a 10 out of 10. I don't think I've ever seen anything past a 9.
Do you know what this means?
No, it looks like a sideways rifle.
Wow, that's America for you. That's America.
How about a snake scepter?
It's you need to look up Red Dragon.
Okay.
And then I'll leave it at that. It's a little bit of a Vancouver thing.
Okay.
Okay, here we go. Why do magic at all? So my pitch to you is this. Under what other circumstance can you walk into a crowd of people and be the man?
Well, by being the star guy. When you're talking about that actor, he wasn't
Sure.
doing magic. He was just there and the star.
Right. So there's acting, there's music, there's let's go on acting and music. So there's acting, music, and then there's magic. Right? Let's pick those three.
Yeah.
Which is the easiest to get a gig at? Because you're an actor as well.
Yeah.
So what would be easier? Booking a hit TV show, creating a hit album, or being a magician in your local Christmas party?
The third one.
Totally. Magic is the way that you can it's probably the easiest way for you to be the star for a group of people in your town. Right? You're gonna do. I could do magic like if you have 100 people in your town, let alone 2 million. You could be doing gigs like every single Friday, Saturday, Sunday night. If you said I'm going to be an actor and I'm going to do shows every Friday, like good luck. Like, hey, if you can do it, rock and roll. Maybe community theater, but like, there's no way you're going to book that many acting gigs. And if you're going to be like, oh, I'm going to write a hit song that everyone's going to listen to Friday, Saturday night, I mean, that's doable. Again, all the best. But magic for me is the way like you get, and it's a different gig too, right? Like we're just talking, that analogy is just about strictly like being successful, not taking into account of the love of magic, right? Why do magic at all? Is because we love the art of magic. But in terms of like, business and what you get out of it, it's definitely the easiest way to get to go into groups of people and be this person for them, I think.
Okay, so how do you go into a group of people and do a trick? And I don't mean that like from a confidence standpoint. I mean like, do you have a way that's not awkward to say, do you guys want to see a trick for a group out of nowhere?
Totally. So if there's a group of people, I'll walk up to people and go, "What's up, Eddie? What's up? How's everyone doing? High fives, high fives, high fives." Like already. Like who's that? Who the heck is this guy?
All right.
That is the question there. Who the heck? You're wondering who I am. I'm Jamie. I'm the magician. Are you ready?
Oh, okay. All right.
Right. It's just about being that star. Like if you walk up to a group, excuse me, sorry to interrupt, but would you mind if I get out of here? People are just gonna shut you down, right? Did you drop this knife? This pocket? You have to go in there and be like, "Hey everyone, what's up? Jamie, nice to meet you. Nice to meet you, brother." That is the greatest handshake I've ever had in my entire life. Who taught you to shake a hand like that? That's amazing. Hello, young lady. Jamie, nice to meet you. Nice to meet you. Where did you get that hair? Is that hair real? Because that's amazing. I've never seen hair like that. I'm Jamie, by the way, the magician. No one ever goes, "Oh, okay, can you leave us alone?" No one. That has never happened.
Okay.
That has never happened in a million years.
Okay, I'm going to go out and try that. What day is today? Today is Friday. Tuesday, I'm going to approach some people with that and I'm an actor, so I can do it. With that exact, like, mirror image energy, and I'll report back.
It's the energy, man. I mean, that example is at at working gigs, right? That's when I'm approaching groups at gigs.
Sure.
If I were to approach people, strangers on the street, I would probably manipulate it a little bit more. I might grab a buddy with a cell phone. That's all you need. And I'd be like, hey, everyone, what's up? How are you? Hey, Chris Junsky, how are you? How are you? How are you? Chris, hey, guys, we're filming a magic show here. Do you mind just, hey, pick a card for me?
Okay.
I would probably manipulate it like that. If I knew the people at all, then I'm like, magic time, baby. guess what time it is? Guess what time? It's magic time.
Oh, that's awesome.
Like that's. But it's that playful, that kind of fun, not intimidating, and that's another problem that I see a lot of magicians is they want to have this this David Blaine style, and David Blaine, he's amazing.
Yeah.
But he's amazing because he was on. Well, he's amazing for a bunch of reasons, but one of the keys to his success was that he has this presence on television, right? This television presence where you're like, wow, that's real. I want to see more of what this guy is doing.
Yeah.
For the people starting out trying to do gigs in real life, it's not going to play very well if you go up to someone and you're like, hello. You got to be.
Yeah.
They're not. That's not the guy, unless you're David Blaine and you're super famous. That's not the guy they're going to book for their 40th anniversary.
Yeah.
The guy they're going to book for their 40th anniversary is like, how is everybody? Does everybody know each other? Hey, are you guys related? No, like that's the guy they want.
Okay. Let me switch gears for a second.
Yeah.
I found the title. So the title of your Anything is Possible bottle, I found that to be so interesting. So I want to pass the question to you. Is that just a title, or do you stand by the idea that anything is possible?
Oh, I totally believe anything is possible. I am living proof that anything is possible.
Yep.
They were called impossible bottles. They've been around for, hundreds of years, wood through Coke can or Coke bottles and all that. Oh, when I created the AIP bottle, I just don't like the word impossible. I don't believe it. So I just called it Anything is Possible bottle. But in terms of my personal belief of is anything possible? Absolutely. You can be whatever you want to be. If you want to be the next greatest, hugest magician to ever, walk the earth, absolutely. I totally believe it 100%. It's just a matter of it comes down to your mind. It is all in your mind. And there's a lot of myth in magic. The magic community as a whole, it's very hard to prove. Mm-hmm. It's hard to prove if you're successful or not, right? So, when we see people on Facebook and they've got, a picture of them at a gig and you're like, man, I wish I was like that guy. Well, how do you know that person's not doing one gig a year? Tell me how you know. Well, because other people say that is not proof. Yeah. Show me proof that these people that you worship are doing gigs every day. So, when people have this aspiration of I want to be that guy, I try to tell people that you don't know that person. So, don't try to be that person because you have no idea. They could be married and their husband or wife is a surgeon and they're making $250,000 a year. And he's doing a gig once a year at the library, but it looks like, oh, wow, he's doing gigs. He's traveling all over because every time his wife goes to a surgery conference, he takes a picture of himself on the plane.
Yeah.
Don't look at other people and be like, that's the thing I want to be. You need to ask yourself, when it comes to anything is possible, you need to ask yourself, what do I want that will make me happy? What is it that I want to be? And if you're telling yourself you want to be like another person, shelve that dream. Just get rid of it, because no dream of any person should be to be another person. That should not be your dream. Your dream is, what would make me happy? Is it having a lime green Lambo? Is it living in the forest and having 100 puppies? Is it what would make you happy? So for all my success, everything that I have, no kidding, like a day with my dog and obviously my wife of 15 years, like that's all I need personally. Like
Mhm.
I personally actually don't want like a TV show or a stage show in Vegas. Like that's not what I need. All I need really is Melissa and Bella, and maybe my motorcycle and some fun things. But it really comes down to yourself of like, what do you actually want? Because when it comes to I want to be like this guy or this girl, it's a myth. I guarantee you that whatever you're looking at on Instagram and Facebook, like it's all a myth to try to tell you that this is I want. People try to get people to want to be like them. That is a goal for people. I want people to look at me and go, I want to be that guy. And it's a trap. That's a trap that you can easily fall into. And magic is a great example where we fall into this trap of seeing all these famous magicians and you're like, I totally want to be like that guy. And you realize that the life that he leads is not the life that you would want in a trillion years.
Mhm.
So my question for everyone is, what do you want? What do you want? So Chris, for you, what do you want from magic? Like, what do you want to be happy? What do you need?
A lot of money.
To do what?
Sure. So I want to, you know what? Money for the sake of money. And I know
Yeah.
everyone hates that answer, but
But to do what? So what? So that you can actually so you can like burn $100 bills? Like what are you gonna do with this money?
man, that's a tough question. But I actually I see money as a score, and and I understand that that's not the healthiest way to look at it. But if I had
Okay, but so who's gonna look at your score and say you're winning? Like
me,
who are you trying to show that to?
me,
Okay, so that's not really what's making you happy. So what do you want?
I want to be able to buy almost anything without giving it a second thought.
So be specific. Like what?
Um, anything in a store that you could walk into. So I'm not talking about
Specific.
a Lamborghini. I'm talking about a TV. I want to buy a TV without a second thought.
Okay. So TV, how much is a TV? I don't watch TV.
A really nice
Uh,
TV, $2,000. I don't
it's like
watch
what?
TV either, but I'm just using that as
Right.
I want to be able to walk in. I want a TV.
Right. So 2 grand. So now we're talking about, well, if you became a magician that could make again like a 50 grand a year,
Hmm.
which would be good on top of your other job that you've got because you're going to school and you're gonna be successful, you're gonna be another businessman on top of that. If you do 50 grand a year at your magic gig, you can buy 25 TVs, right?
Yes.
So do you need $10 million,
No, I need
or
20.
do you only need like 50 grand?
I need 20 million.
To be young, I would question that. If I were you, I would sit down every day and ask yourself, do I?
I do because I want a Tesla, and I also don't want to worry about that. So let's change the number from 2K to 100K. I don't want to worry about 100K.
Okay, well, if you're paying for things that are 100K, I would question your uh, what you are doing for humanity.
This is a spiritual question, Jamie. Have you ever been in a Tesla?
Uh,
You would know.
no, I almost,
It's
I almost bought one, but we were like, why are we
it's
gonna spend?
soul altering. It elevates you.
Okay, so again, you can buy a Tesla. Absolutely. Hey, rock and roll. If buying a Tesla is your dream, you can buy a Tesla. But again, you only need like you need what 100 grand. Now
Yeah.
you need 2 grand for the TV. So you only need 102 grand. Do you need 20 million? And what about the Tesla is going to make you happy? Which part of it?
When you go really fast, it presses you. I'm kidding.
Okay, sure. But no,
Um,
these are good answers. Like you know what you want, right? You want that feeling, you like cars, like you like that feeling of the car. Well, instead of making the goal, I want to make as much money as I can, I
no, I
would
don't.
suggest
I don't
right,
because
but people do. I would suggest you instead put a picture of a Tesla on your wall and the TV beside it, maybe a TV picture of a Tesla, and you can
oh,
have
that's
both in one
good.
shot.
That's really good.
And then I would make that's the goal, right?
Yeah.
That's the goal. And when you do those things, absolutely achievable.
Let me add one
100%.
more
You could
thing.
have a Tesla. Yeah.
While we're mapping out my life, let's add one more thing. Uh,
Yeah.
I don't want to be famous, but I want every 200th person to recognize me and say, "Hi, I like you."
Okay. And that is a great response because I think that's the response of a lot of people. And I would ask yourself why.
Why what?
Why do I want that?
Oh, to feel good
Why do
about
I
myself.
Right. So, I would suggest you try and find other ways to feel good about yourself. I think the need for outside affirmation, and I'm not saying this about you specifically, but it can lead to questions about what is your inside affirmation like. Like for myself personally, I'm an amazing, amazing person. I am totally happy with who I am. And if someone came up to me and said, "You are the biggest douche I've ever met," I probably look at my actions to see why they think that. But at the end of the day, I really don't care.
Yeah.
Like I absolutely do not care because I've got Melissa, I've got Bella. I do not need these people's opinions. So for the people that want to be famous, for those that, I want people to recognize me on the street, I want people to applaud. Why?
Well,
What
okay.
is it because you just love it, or is it because it's fixing something in yourself that you do
No,
not have yet?
I don't think. I'll be honest, and I don't talk about myself on the show a whole lot, but I'm pretty happy with who I am. I don't really need outside validation, and if someone called me a douchebag, that would bounce off. But if someone thanked me or told me that they think I'm great, that would feel good. That's compliments,
Totally.
right? I complimented your hat. How did that feel?
Yeah,
Good,
totally,
right?
exactly, right?
But at the
So
same time,
100%.
yeah.
So you can get that, absolutely. And magic, make no mistake, is a great way to get that. When you're doing magic gigs and everyone's applauding and like you're the most amazing thing I've ever seen, that is definitely a total way to create that benefit that you want. But it all comes down to asking yourself, what do I want? What do I need to actually make me happy? And that goes to the next question of, am I happy right now?
And if you're asking the question to me, the answer is yes, I
Yeah,
am.
beauty.
And
And you
I
got your podcast, you got your acting, like you're already living the dream. The Tesla and the TV are material things. Like listen, everyone at home, listen to me carefully. Material things are easily easily
got
gotten,
get
got.
gotten. It's get gotten.
If you want a Tesla at home, you can have a Tesla. I know it sounds impossible if you're like, I can't even have any gigs yet. Listen, it'll happen. But more important than that,
Hmm.
a trillion times more important than that is, are you happy with who you are as a person?
Let
That
me.
is worth its weight in gold. That's brand value.
I think that for me, one of the things that makes me happy is having goals. So the idea of wanting $20 million, of wanting a Tesla, those goals make me happy. Like I like feeling like there's something awesome ahead of me. And maybe if I had it, it'd be cool for a few weeks, months, and it would wear off. But I think that the long-term goal is really it affects me now, and I really like having those goals.
Totally. And they're key. I think you need to add the goal of, I also want to feed 100 homeless people.
Okay.
I think we need to, because what happens when we have these goals strictly for ourselves, right? I want to make 10 million, is that a couple of things can happen. You can become so obsessed with it that you create problems on the route to that goal, right? Burning bridges, creating, a lot of dynamics that aren't enjoyable later in life.
Hmm.
And the other one is that if it doesn't happen, and again, this always comes back to my backup plan. What happens if you don't make it? If you don't make that 10 million, is that going to crush you for years of your life? Not to say that you're not going to make it, but you got to think of all the options. You got to think of the long game. And the long game isn't, I'm going to make this no matter what, I can do anything. that is a technique that you have to use to get those things, but you must also have a plan of what's my goal if that doesn't happen.
Is it? Hang on. Can you hear
That's
that?
you. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
So
Fine.
and I guess that comes down to setting yourself up for success.
Okay. Sure. I would not be crushed if I didn't get those things. I guess I don't know how to explain it. No, I don't like that answer
It's
either.
interesting. I mean, these are good questions, and I think
Yeah.
I think a healthy life is I want to own a Tesla. I want to have a happy relationship. I want to help my neighbors and family. I want to have an awesome dog. And what happens is when you have 10 of these things,
Yeah.
I'm like, if I get like eight of them, I'm golden, right? Sure, the one I miss is the 10 million, but whatever. I've got these other eight things that I've wanted, and they're amazing. So you need to set yourself up for success and make some of those things easily achievable, right? You need to
Mm-hmm.
give yourself some easy wins. And that just comes down to like helping personal happiness. One of them is probably I want to do, 10 gigs a year for the rest of my life or 100 gigs a year. Like you got to have easy goals, medium goals, and hard goals, and you can't knock yourself out if you don't get all of them.
What kind of goals are you looking for right now in your life?
So I want to run a marathon. So I'm 6 months away, and I can't run to save my life. I just started a month ago. Like I'm talking 100 meters, and I am like keeled over and dying. It is the worst experience. I used to be a semi-professional. I used to race bicycles in Europe, but
Right.
it's another story. Um,
Sounds like a
so
cool one,
running has
though.
been. What's that?
It sounds like a cool one, though, story.
It is. Oh, it's very hard. So I just ran 7 kilometers last Sunday. This Sunday I'm going to run 10 kilometers, hopefully, and I want to run a marathon this summer. I also want my pilot's license.
Yeah.
One of my students, paramedic students, was also a pilot, and I thought that was it was just so James Bondy. Like, yeah, that thing that flies.
Yeah.
I can fly that.
Yeah. My dad has a license, or he had one for a long time, and now he's in the process of renewing it, but he flies.
I think it's awesome.
Yeah.
So, and those are like you can even see with myself. Those two goals are very easy.
Yeah.
Not in terms of actually doing it, because I promise you, running a marathon is the worst thing in the world. But they're definitely doable, right? Like I've never been one to be. Well, I'm also I'm a minimalist. I don't own. Melissa and I want to own nothing. That's kind of our goal in life. Is we want to own literally nothing. So I've never had those aspirations of like I want my own private jet. Like to me, that just gives me. I'm like, oh god, could you imagine trying to clean it? Like it just, I don't want any of those. I don't want any of those things. It's
Yeah,
too much of a hassle.
the guy who owns a private jet and then cleans it himself. That would be you.
You'd be like, oh man, where am I going to store it? And, oh, the rudder broke. Do they have rudders? I don't know.
Fair
So
enough.
like I've never been one for material things, and that was a gift given to me, thankfully. So my goals are all about just achievements, like
Hmm.
just things that I can say on this day I did this thing. Yeah,
Okay.
marathon. Let's do that. That's an easy one.
That's pretty good. It's not that easy. I mean, I haven't run a
Ah,
marathon, but come on.
didn't Kevin Hart just run one? I think he just ran one.
I don't know. If Kevin Hart can do it, I mean, hey,
So when you finish school, what do you become when you're done business school?
a magician.
Great answer. Absolutely. Think of all the contacts you'll make at school.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, I don't want to take you too much longer. Usually interviews are about an hour, and I think we've hit
Oh
that
yeah.
hour mark. So I'll give you
Awesome.
one. If there's anything you'd like to mention or repeat or whatever. If
Pick
there's
up a
something.
copy of the approach. So this is me doing impressions, right?
Okay,
Everyone needs to know that I wrote a book and I sell it for money.
who is that an
So
impression of?
everyone, this is like my business impression. Like I was saying, like you have to
Oh,
do. This is my impression to all your viewers. I
yes.
wrote a book. I sell it for money, or a bottle. I don't
Uh,
have one around.
you're so funny in
Um,
in your website and your style, like 3 easy payments of $25. It's hysterical. I love the way you
yeah.
set that stuff up, and that's actually one of the questions I wanted to ask. So let's keep this quick. But why comic? Why comic style?
A great friend of mine, Sean Coverton, is like a world famous cartoonist. He did like the Voltron series and all
Oh,
that, and I
wow.
just love the old comic book, just the old comic book style.
Mm-hmm.
And he was available at the time. Now he's too busy because he's too famous now. He's too busy,
Oh,
but he did all my product stuff back in the day.
that's
And I
cool.
mean, and that's something I should touch on before we go. Everything that I've done in my life, everything was because I was nice to somebody. That that is the absolute truth. I have zero gifts. I have zero talent, ability. Everything that I've done was because I was nice to someone at some point and they were able to return the favor. So if you're going to take away anything from this podcast, just memorize these 5 words, all right? How can I help you? Make that your mantra. Every single person you meet, you should ask yourself, how can I help this person? Do you need help shoveling your driveway? Hey, I'm ready. Rock and roll. Because that is the person that's going to book you for a gig 9 years from now. Every single person you meet, you need to tell them that you do magic for money, and then you need to find a way to help them. That's it.
I think that's a great parting message. Um,
Awesome.
Plugs, where can they find you?
Just go to Google and type in the word "send wonder."
That's great.
That's it.
Okay, great. Jaime De Grant, thank you for joining us. This has been an absolute pleasure, and your insight has been invaluable. I hope everyone watching has been watching all the way through and didn't just skip to the end for some ridiculous reason. Yeah, thank you for
Awesome.
thank you
Thanks
for
for
coming.
having me, Chris.
No, sure, of course.